So delighted and such an honor to be with Christine Stansell, who I've admired for so long, and she is a real trailblazer, an eminent historian of women and University of Chicago professor. She's been a pioneer in the first class of women at Princeton. Then she went on to teach at Princeton on the faculty until finally we got to lure her here to Chicago and don't intend to let her go. She's received a fellowship from the Guggenheim Foundation, been a fellow at the Institute for Advanced Study, and was a Bunting Fellow at Radcliffe. And we're just delighted she's at the festival today. She's written this astonishing book, which is right there, and you'll be able to buy it. And so she writes, feminism promised many things. Many of them were maybe contradictory. So here are a few. Bring about world peace, end prostitution, abolish pornography, abolish the sexual double standard, abolish the nuclear family, make women more like men, make men more like women, less sex, more sex, better sex, marriage, no marriage, gay marriage, better marriage. It's all here, all of those struggles in this book. The full sweep of the struggle for women's equality is in this important book. And it's full of life and it's full of color. And it really feels like a life's work in this book. It really does. It's synthesized so much research. But just the greatest thing about the book is that it doesn't lose track of the stories, of the sort of the different and contradictory and simultaneous struggles for feminism. She begins in 1792 and then brings us up to the present. And it's not a heroine's guide to history. She's an eye for all sorts of odd characters and sort of is keenly interested in how politics informs the fullness and complexity of their lives. And in the book, feminism is a kind of it's an argument, and it's a living, breathing sort of argument. In these pages, you'll meet all sorts of new women and new people, and it goes beyond the study of suffrage and beyond sort of first wave feminism and second wave feminism. And it's a remarkable book. It's not a history of feminism. It is about promise. And it's the ongoing struggle. I'm just wondering if you can begin with sort of why does it start in 1792?
Well, this is 1792 is the one date in the book, and when I came to titling the book, I, being a historian, wanted to put 2 dates in, and the editors said, no dates, no dates. Dates are death for titles. So we compromised on, they thought 1 date was okay. And 1792 is the right date because Mary Wollstonecraft, who Liz briefly mentioned, who is an amazing person who inaugurated this tradition, wrote a vindication of the rights of women in 1792, right in the middle of the French Revolution, looking at it afar from London. And this was the first full-scale exposition of the idea of the rights of women in history. Women have been lamenting their situation for as long as people have been publishing books. But the idea that women could do something about this situation really accompanied the rise of modern democracy with the American and French revolutions, because the idea that people were occupied a society of equals rather than a great chain of being with everybody in their appointed place was the prerequisite for being able to imagine a world in which women occupied a different relationship to government than that between that under the rule of their husband. And actually, one of the big themes of the book is this very uneven movement to release women from this political structure of marriage, which is literally a political structure until really very, very recently. Certainly, the achievement of full citizenship for women with the vote was one marker, but even so, it wasn't until the 1970s, for example, that that spousal rape was a legal category. Up until then, men could still rape their wives with impunity. So that's 1792.
And we talked about just now about marriage, and can you talk a little bit about sort of this other theme that the book, which is motherhood, and sort of the different phases that motherhood has sort of gone through in this time?
Yeah, I've taught the history of women and the history of feminism for a long time now, since I started out as a young professor in the late 1970s. And thus I've taught many cohorts of women students. In addition to that, I have my own daughter and my own son. And so I have seen the way that these ideas have worked through the generations for quite some time. And one of the motivating forces for the book was the sense that the narrative of feminism was losing its hold on the younger generations, that it had become the property of women my age or older, and that there were walls around it which made it very inaccessible to younger women. I see that as part of a continuing problem in feminism, which I cast in the book as the tension between the politics of the mothers and the politics of the daughters. And those categories don't always overlap with age. For example, I think that my generation, now coming into our 60s, what came of age with the sensibility of daughters. We were high kicking, I call it in the book. We were contemptuous of institutions. We were contemptuous of the family. We were utterly cynical about the possibility of working with men, but yet we wanted all the prerequisites that men have in the world. We wanted men's privileges, and we wanted to live in the world as men. That's a coterie of ideas that really goes back to the turn of the century and maybe arguably earlier, but is very much a daughter's politics. And in distinction to that is the politics of the mothers, which is much more cautious and prudent and preservative of the family, which I actually think is the property of younger women today. But in the most exciting moments, in the most productive moments of feminism, those two sensibilities have meshed. In the moments when things are much more diffuse or even stymied, those two sensibilities are very far off. So I follow the mother's politics and the daughter's politics all the way through, and it's one tracking device, which doesn't tell you everything, but it tells you actually a lot about how ideas and recurrent problems arrange themselves through this very long period of time.